There are moments in history when everything seems normal, until one small detail changes everything. A piece of data, a whisper in the markets, a decision made on the other side of the world, and suddenly, what felt stable begins to tremble. We live trapped in an invisible dance of numbers, decisions, and fear. And even if you don't see it, it's already happening. A new cycle is taking shape. Inflation, like a tide that seemed to have pulled back, is rising again, and this time, no one is truly prepared. What if this isn't just about economics, but a subtle form of control, of chaos, of power? What happens when leaders deny reality and the market starts screaming truths few want to hear? How long can we ignore the signs? Tell me, have you ever felt like something just didn't fit, even when everything around you said it did? Leave it in the comments. Just write, "I felt it," and maybe you're not alone. Today, you're going to see what no one dares to tell you, because this isn't just about the economy. It's a warning, a chain of dominoes already falling, and understanding it could change the way you see the world. The charts looked encouraging. The headlines spoke of recovery, but behind the curtain, the price index began to breathe faster. Inflation crept back in, this time quietly, so it wouldn't wake the sleeping giant. Comment the word echo if you also feel like something keeps repeating in the air. From 2.4% to 2.7%, 0.3. That's all inflation rose in a single month. But in the world of global economics, that's a silent earthquake. It's like a clock ticking faster without anyone noticing, like a heart that seems to beat normally, but something in its rhythm is off. Because in macroeconomics, tenths aren't small. They're symbols of tension, of mounting pressure, of a fragility hidden beneath the numbers. Core inflation, the one you can't see at first glance, has also risen from 2.8% to 2.9%. And that's not just a statistic. It's a crack opening beneath our feet, one that moves forward even if most are too afraid to look. And do you know why it matters so much? Because it doesn't warn you. Because inflation doesn't arrive like a storm. It comes like humidity, quiet, invisible, unstoppable. And by the time we notice, the foundations are already rotting. In a world moving faster and faster, where everything feels more volatile, more urgent, we feel slower, more exhausted, closer to the edge. And maybe that is the real signal, not the data, but what it's making us feel. Are you feeling it too? Comment below. I felt it before anyone, because sometimes the soul senses what the charts take months to reveal. They taught us to consume, to desire, to work so we could buy, to measure our happiness in products, in numbers, in material goals. But what happens when that system breaks? Prices keep rising, but no one can afford them anymore. It's like we've reached the edge of a game where the only move left is to give up. The consumer no longer responds. They're wounded, in debt, exhausted. Raising prices in a world without purchasing power is like selling bottled water in a desert to people too dehydrated to even ask for it. And here lies the paradox. Companies keep inflating their numbers. Governments paint a picture of stability, but the streets, the real economy, are gasping for air. And when that happens, the economy doesn't collapse with a bang. It collapses with resignation, with businesses that close quietly, with dinners that get simpler, with dreams that are postponed indefinitely. Are you surviving instead of living too? Comment the word resilience if you've ever looked at your bank account and realized the only option left is to endure. They sold it to us as protection, as economic justice, as a shield against foreign giants. But tariffs don't always protect. Sometimes they boomerang right back into the heart of the consumer. What's the point of taxing what comes from abroad if the things we use every day become more expensive? Furniture, appliances, tools, clothing, kitchenware. Things so ordinary, so necessary, we don't even consider them a luxury. And yet, a tariff of 15, 20, or even 30% slowly seeps into the final price, like someone turning up the volume of the music while you're trying to concentrate, until you can't think or breathe anymore. Business owners know it. Some swallow the losses, others pass them on to the customer, but all of them are at the limit. And the cruelest part is this: the ones who suffer the most aren't the ones imposing the tariffs. It's the people barely getting by, the ones who no longer can afford to replace their broken blender, the one who stitches the same shirt for the 4th time, the one who saves money for food, not for furniture. Did you notice how everything went up, but no one explained why? Tell me below. Comment, I already felt it in my pocket. Let's see how many others have lived the same. There's a place where inflation becomes real, and it's not on Wall Street. It's in the grocery aisle. There, between empty shelves and shifting price tags, hides the true face of economic fear. Milk, rice, eggs, everything rises. But it's not just numbers going up. It's anxiety, frustration, that knot in your stomach when you start doing mental math and choose to put something back on the shelf, because it's just not enough. And housing, that other sacred pillar, is slipping away too. Rents are skyrocketing. Buying a home has become a fantasy. And so, the foundations of a stable life begin to crack. This isn't about luxury anymore. It's about basic needs, about dignity. And yet, the official speeches haven't changed. It's temporary. It's lower than expected. We've got it under control. But you and I know that's not true. Have you ever left the supermarket feeling like you lost more than just money? Donald Trump wants low interest rates. He wants money to flow, the economy to speed up, for voters to feel relief, even if it's only temporary. But inflation, like an open wound, hasn't healed yet. And there lies the conflict. Politics wants speed, but the economy demands caution. And caught between those two forces are we. When interest rates are cut before inflation is under control, cheap money isn't a blessing, it's gasoline on a fire. It's happened before. In the 70s, in the 2000s, rates were slashed, spending surged, and what followed was recession or worse. But collective memory is short, and the hunger to win elections endless. Because lowering rates might help people breathe, but it can also drown them in future debt. It's a dangerous game. And sometimes it feels like they're not playing with chips, they're playing with our lives. Did you live through a time when everything kept going up, but no one told the truth? Comment, I was there, if you remember when hope was just another broken campaign promise. Some screams make no sound, and the bond market is one of them. When the 30-year Treasury yield goes over 5%, it's not random, it's a warning. It's like the economy taking a deep breath before a jump, but that jump might be into the abyss. Investors are saying something. They don't trust the near future. They don't believe in stability. They don't see a clear horizon. Because when bond yields rise, it's not that they're more attractive. It's that they need to compensate for the risk. Risk of default, risk of inflation, risk of erratic policy, risk that the system has no one at the wheel. But few notice it. Even fewer understand it. And while the experts debate, ordinary people feel the tremor without knowing where it's coming from. Did you also feel that subtle buzz, that strange tension in your economic surroundings? Comment alert if you sensed it before the news told you. It was just another day. A Tuesday, a Thursday, doesn't matter. Trump announced new tariffs, and within minutes, the markets reacted like something had cracked. It wasn't the content, it was the symbolism, it was the delivery. Because it wasn't a planned policy, it was impulse, it was shock strategy, it was fireworks in a dry field. Markets don't shake because of what is said, but how it's said. And when the one speaking is the president of a global superpower, every word becomes gunpowder. Every improvised announcement, every decision without technical grounding, is a blind shot in a maze. And that's how uncertainty is built, with words thrown like stones, not knowing who they'll hit. Do you also feel like the world is being run more by emotions than by actual plans? Tell me below, because sometimes in the middle of the noise, the most comforting thing is knowing you're not the only one who senses it. Once, buying a washing machine was an investment for years. Today, it's a luxury disguised as a necessity. The price is no longer just the metal, the motor, or the brand. It's the result of an invisible chain of political decisions, tariffs, broken deals, trade conflicts. Every extra percentage on the final price is a small wound inflicted by choices made far away, by people who've never seen your kitchen, your bank account, or your frustration as you watch everything go up. And still, the message stays the same. We're protecting local industry. It's for the good of the economy. You just want to wash your kids' clothes without feeling like you're mortgaging the entire month. Because the real tax isn't on the price tag. It's in the helplessness of someone who no longer knows what else to cut. Did you feel it too? Comment "everything's going up" if you've ever looked at a basic appliance like it was some unreachable luxury. Everything is connected, but not the way the charts show it. It's how the heart feels when something breaks and you don't know why. A tariff imposed thousands of miles away raises the price of a product at your local store. That price fuels inflation. Inflation pressures the Federal Reserve, and the Fed adjusts interest rates. And you feel your rent go up, your credit get more expensive, your life get tighter, even though you did nothing wrong. It's like the world is one massive tapestry, and someone at the top pulls on a single thread, without thinking of all the strands it snaps at the bottom. That invisible web doesn't make the news, but it's everywhere. It's in your grocery cart, in your bank statement, in your daily choices, even in your dreams. Have you ever made a small decision and later realized it had changed everything? Write it down. Because sometimes recognizing the thread is the only way not to get tangled in the net. Not every scream makes a sound. Some are traded. The Treasury bond market used to be a safe haven, a shelter for fearful money. But today, it's something else. An emotional mirror, a thermometer for the collective soul beating with anxiety. When bond yields rise, it's not out of optimism. It's because investors demand more to trust. Like a parent who hesitates to lend you money because something deep inside tells them it's not the right time. They don't shout, they don't cause a scene, but the big players are speaking. And what they're saying is this: we don't trust anymore. Trust. That invisible word that holds up economies, families, nations. When it's lost, it doesn't matter how much money is in circulation. The feeling of risk eats everything. Have you felt it too? That quiet sense that no one confirms, but you carry like a thorn buried in your soul. Comment "I sensed it" if you've ever known something was wrong, even when everyone pretended everything was fine. The Federal Reserve isn't just an institution. It's a tightrope walker in the wind. It has to decide when to raise or lower rates, when to step in or step back. And every second matters. Act too soon, and inflation comes back like a sleeping monster. Wait too long, and families fall, one by one, into the pit of debt and unemployment. There's no manual, no safety net, just a rope stretched over a drop that doesn't forgive mistakes. And while everyone criticizes from below, they're walking a line of decisions that could alter the course of entire generations. This is the dilemma of timing, when getting it right isn't enough. You have to get it right at the perfect moment. Not before, not after.
Have you ever had to make a decision under unbearable pressure, where you knew a single misstep had a real cost? Comment, the perfect moment doesn't exist. If you've ever felt the vertigo of having to act before you were ready. He doesn't wear a cape. He doesn't smile from posters. He's not the star of superhero stories. But Jerome Powell has something very few do: the responsibility never to make a mistake. He's the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the man whose single sentence can shake stock markets across the globe. Every glance he makes is studied by experts. Every pause in his speeches is worth millions, literally. Because if Powell makes the wrong call, if he moves too soon or too late, if he hesitates or acts too fast, the global economy feels it. It's like he's holding a glass castle in his hands, with millions watching, hoping he doesn't let it fall. And yet, hardly anyone talks about him. Few realize that behind every rate, every graph, every number, there's a human being. One who also breathes, hesitates, fears. Have you ever carried a silent responsibility? One of those burdens that no one applauds, but weigh as much as the world. Comment, balance, if you've ever felt like everything depended on you, even if no one else knew. When everything shakes, the soul looks for roots. And in economics, those roots have a name: gold. For centuries, it's been the symbol of the unshakable. No matter how many governments fall, how many currencies change faces, how many crises hit the markets, gold remains. Today, the dollar is staggering. Rates are rising, bonds are unstable, and money is fleeing back to the old. Not out of nostalgia, out of necessity. Because gold doesn't promise growth. It promises permanence. And in times like these, that's worth more than 1,000 stats. Big investors won't say it with words, but they scream it with their actions. We don't believe in the new anymore. We're going back to what's essential.
Maybe you've done it too. Maybe when everything felt uncertain, you went back to your grandmother's embrace, a handwritten letter, that place where everything was simpler but more real. Comment, back to the essentials, if you've ever sought refuge in the old, in the reliable, in what doesn't need Wi-Fi to bring you peace. One drop doesn't scare you, but when the entire sky threatens to break open, that's a different story. That's what we're living through now. Not one crisis, but many, woven together like waves in a perfect storm. Inflation biting into every paycheck. Tariffs raising the price of every import. Political decisions that feel more like improvisation than strategy. And above it all, distrust. Like a ship that's lost its compass in the middle of the ocean, the markets drift without direction. And you, me, all of us are on board. Once upon a time, a family could make plans. Now, they can only endure. Because when the wind comes from every direction, it's not about moving forward. It's about staying afloat. And you? Do you also feel like there's more than one storm raging in your personal life right now? Write it down, not as a complaint, but to remember there are others sailing with torn sails too. Leave it below. I'm here, reading. Sometimes sharing the weight makes it lighter. Not all heroes wear suits. Some are just trying to keep their shop open. Jane Smith isn't famous. She doesn't give speeches. She's not on Bloomberg charts. But her story explains the economy better than most experts. She owned a small furniture store. Sofas, chairs, tables, the basics to turn a house into a home. Then, suddenly, the world changed. Parts she imported from China went up by 15%. Shipping delays hit hard. Taxes increased. Her choice? Raise prices or shut down. She raised them. The sofa that used to sell for $800 now costs $920. And every customer who walks in hesitates. Not because they don't need it, but because their money doesn't stretch that far anymore. That's the story behind the data. It's not just inflation, it's survival. Have you had to make a tough choice just to keep going? Comment endure if you know what it's like to choose between losing customers or losing everything. You won't read it in the headlines, but every percentage point inflation rises is a postponed conversation, a canceled trip, a medication bought later or not at all. The economy doesn't only live in central banks. It lives at your kitchen table, in the breakfast where bread costs more and smiles last less. Love doesn't always survive financial stress. Couples argue more. Parents feel more guilt. Children grow up in tense homes even when there's love. When everything gets more expensive, you don't just lose money. You lose time, and time doesn't come back. Vacations pushed to maybe next year. Treatments delayed due to lack of coverage. Projects that die before they begin. Because in today's economy, the biggest luxury is being able to wait without fear. Have you ever put something important on hold just because of money? Comment, I waited too long, if you've ever had to freeze your dreams, waiting for a better moment. Some silences hurt more than the wrong answers. And right now, the Federal Reserve's silence is deafening. Trump is asking. The markets are hoping. The people are needing. But the rate cut still hasn't come. Like a promised relief that keeps getting delayed. Like an oasis that moves farther away each time you reach for it. Meanwhile, prices rise. Credit cards max out. Loans get more expensive. And hope gets tired of waiting. Because an economy that can't breathe suffocates. And what's at stake isn't just a number. It's the ability to live with a little less fear. But each new inflation report feels like another chain. Another reminder that the moment still hasn't arrived. And you, what are you waiting for to act? A price drop? A headline? A sign? Write it down. Whatever it is you've been putting off, a move, a trip, an investment, a conversation, put it into words. Because sometimes writing it is the first step to freeing yourself from the waiting. There are truths hidden behind technical jargon, and there are pains that don't need a name to feel real. Officially, there's no recession. But go tell that to the father who just lost his job, to the woman who had to close her small business, to the young man working 2 shifts and still can't make ends meet. Because a recession doesn't start in the charts. It starts in the chest. In that heavy feeling every time you open the fridge and start calculating. In that maybe next month you repeat while postponing your dreams. Many politicians refuse to say the word, but you're living it. And you know it. Because you see it in the supermarket, in your bills, in the tired eyes on the subway. You don't need confirmation from above. Reality already confirmed it. On your street, in your family, in your state of mind. Comment, I'm not alone, if you also feel like you're living through a recession, even if no one dares to call it by its name. There are things that make no noise, but still scream loud. Like the signals the economy keeps sending us. Every data point, every decision, every sudden shift is a call. But not everyone hears it. Some are too distracted. Others simply don't want to look. And that's understandable. It's easier to believe that everything will stay the same, that the bad news is exaggerated, that the system will always hold, no matter how much it shakes. But those who've lived through collapse before, they know. It always starts with small tremors, with decisions that seemed insignificant, with warnings that were ignored. Today, the whole world is sending signals, and they are not signals of calm. Are you listening? Because there's still time. Time to learn, to prepare, to act. But not forever. The next wave is already rising, and it won't give a second warning. Comment awake if this message hits something inside you. If a part of you said, enough sleeping, and when everything feels normal again, that's the most dangerous moment. Because the greatest threat isn't the crisis. It's believing it's already over. This is no longer just about economics. It's about understanding the invisible forces that shape our lives, about seeing what others don't, and acting before it's too late. If you've made it this far, it means you're already seeing the signs. And what's coming next runs even deeper. Subscribe and join me on this journey, because in a world that changes without warning, information is your greatest shelter.